Hi, my name is Dr. Lenz, and I would like to talk to you a little bit about your health. Now, health is something that we're all concerned with, and we usually become concerned with our health when we become ill or when someone we know becomes ill. But really, health is a matter that we should think about all the time. I've spent a lot of time studying non-traditional medicines. That's what they would call it in the West. Oriental medicine, Chinese medicine, Hindu medicine. In other words, the mind-body connection, the effect that the mind has upon the body. And today I'd like to talk to you a little bit about your health and perhaps introduce some new ideas about health, things that you can do to improve your health, to keep from becoming ill, or perhaps things that you can do if you already have a serious illness to help you deal with that illness, perhaps to lessen it, or perhaps just to make your journey through it much more instructive. At the offset, I would like to point out, however, that I very firmly believe in Western traditional medicine. You may not, but I do. You see, we live in a world that's, to put it in a nutshell, toxic. We are dealing with a polluted world, and consequently, the diseases that people get in the world that we live in require everything that we have to fight them. And of course, the most important thing is to prevent a disease before it occurs. So while there was a time in the Orient that Oriental medicine may have been sufficient to deal with, in a non-toxic environment, health, today I think in the Orient one needs Western medicine. But I think we're learning a great deal also from the Orient. We're learning a great deal from the sources in the Far East, from the schools of yoga, from the schools of Buddhism, from many, many different sources, Qigong, and a variety of different non-traditional medicine schools. And my personal feeling is when we put the best of the East and the West together, then we have all the weaponry in our arsenal to fight disease or to stop it from its inception. I would also like to point out that this tape is to be used in conjunction with a series of audio tapes and other aids. And it's very, very important that you use this tape in that sense. Today we're just talking about some general ideas, but the actual practices, the visualizations that go with the healing techniques are primarily on a series of audio cassettes that should accompany this tape. And by itself, this tape would be taken out of context. I am not a medical doctor. I have a PhD. But I've studied non-traditional medicine for many, many years, and I've worked with a number of medical doctors, chiropractors, holistic health practitioners in developing a system for dealing with illness. And that's what I'd like to talk to you about today. So really our first consideration then is, what is health? And I think that's something that's hard for us to know, as I said before, because we live in a toxic world. I think the world today at this point is so crowded and so polluted. There's just so much anger, so much frustration, so much rage, that it's very difficult to know what it is to be healthy, because our mind and our body is being bombarded literally all the time by what I would call very negative energy. So what is health? How does one become healthy in a world like this? Well, I think the baseline in health is obviously a sense of feeling good about yourself, a sense of happiness in dealing with day-to-day actions. But I think health also has a great deal to do with your state of mind, both conscious and subconscious, and that's really what the mind-body effect is about. Of course, there are viruses. Of course, there's bacteria. There are organic causes of illness, and we've learned that we can avoid certain things through contact, through sterilization, and so on and so forth. But a great deal of what happens in the chemistry of the body, in the chemistry of health, it is my belief, has to do with our state of mind. And it is my belief that if our state of mind is very strong and very powerful, and if we use Oriental visualization and healing techniques to increase our energy flow, what we would call our ki flow, the flow of energy or power through our immune system, or to direct that energy in specific ways using guided imagery techniques, meditation techniques, and relaxation techniques, color healing techniques, music healing, It is my belief that this, combined with traditional Western methods of medicine, can be very, very effective in healing very problematic illnesses or in avoiding illness completely. So what is health? Well, health is a very natural condition in which we are, in effect, fighting our way through life. Life is adversarial. The reason our immune system works is because it's essentially it's a defense mechanism. It's a battle that's going on at every moment between our immune system and negative things in the world around us. So we're constantly picking up bacteria, we're constantly picking up all kinds of things, and our immune system, while we may not be conscious of it, is constantly fighting through our endocrine system, through our blood system, through a variety of systems in our body against illness. Now, from a chemical point of view, it would seem that the mind should have very little to do with healing and how we react to disease, let alone curing disease. It would seem that it's all chemistry. But what Western scientists, at least some of them, are beginning to find out, and of course they've known in the Far East for thousands and thousands of years, is there's much more to illness and to the healing of illness than chemistry. A great deal of it has to do with energy. Think of it just for a moment. What are we anyway? We're energy. We're made up of matter. And matter, of course, as a physicist would tell you, is energy. We're made up of energy that's constantly vibrating at different rates. And when there's a change in our energy flow, when there's a change in the vibratory rate of our being, we become ill. I would suggest that health is a state of awareness. That is to say, it's a vibratory rate of our being. It's the movement of our life, not just of our physical life, but of our mental life, our emotional life, and our spiritual life. And we become ill when, obviously, we're exposed to something that's simply toxic, a virus, a bacteria that attacks our immune system, and our immune system is not sufficiently prepared to deal with it. But we also become ill when there are basic changes in our energy pattern that affect our immune system. Now, this may sound kind of philosophical and metaphysical, but it's actually quite practical. That is to say, your immune system is highly affected by your state of mind, if I can just sum it up for you. And if we can change your state of mind, if we can release more energy into your body, into your mind, if we can direct the power of the mind specifically to healing or towards preventing illness, we have a very powerful resource. Again, I believe in antibiotics, I believe in chemotherapy, I believe in whatever therapy works. I'm not a bigot in any way when it comes to curing illness. You know, if you've been sick, when you're sick, there's only one thing that you want, and that's to be better. So our concern, though, is that in pharmacopoeia, there simply are not enough remedies for all diseases. And very often things that we use, various medicines, while on the one hand they may cure us of something or help us, very often they create other problems. So in addition to using pharmacopoeia, we seek to use the powerful energies within our own mind to heal ourselves. And that's really what Far Eastern medicine is all about. It's about how to unlock the power of the mind and direct it into your body, into your cell structures, to prevent disease first, or if you have a disease, to dispel the disease, to fight the disease. And if the disease is in fact to be fatal, then to be able to cope with that disease, learn from it, and grow with it. So that disease is not something that undoes us, but ultimately it teaches us and can actually enrich our lives, can show us things about life and ourselves that we would never otherwise know. You know, I recently had a student of mine who died of AIDS. And it's a common disease now, perhaps becoming one of the most common diseases. And different people deal with, whether it's AIDS, cancer, or any disease in different ways. Now, when my student died of AIDS recently, he had a very positive experience. And that may sound strange to you because you immediately think that death is failure, disease is somehow inherently evil, there's something wrong with it. And that good health is a sign of a correct way of living. Not necessarily at all. AIDS doesn't discriminate, neither does cancer. Anyone in this environment, in this world, can become ill. But my experience with my student was that as they used meditation techniques, healing techniques, not only did they live much longer than most people do with this disease, but the experience of the disease itself became very positive for this person. While he may have had less years to live than he would have otherwise, his years were more full. He did things he would have never done. He experienced states of mind and just ways of living that he wouldn't have done had he just resigned to his disease and just said, well, doctor, just give me AZT or whatever you've got. Of course, he did all of that. But using Eastern methods of meditation, using Eastern methods of healing, he was able to use the very disease process to get more out of life. And that's what I'd like to talk to you a little bit more about in a minute. Health is a state of mind. And if you want to be healthy, you have to have a healthy mind. So what can you do to have a healthy mind? Well, before we even address the mind, is it really separate from the body? I don't think so. The mind and the body are really one thing. Where is the mind? Is it in the brain? Where is our awareness? Where is our life force? It's everywhere. It's all of us. So in order to fully address health or to address illness, we really have to address our whole life. Our life is our state of mind. It is our state of health. If our life is healthy, we have a much greater chance, of course, of being healthy. Now, just because we have a healthy life doesn't mean we won't deal with illness, because, again, other people may not be healthy, the world may not be healthy, but it certainly gives us much more of a fighting chance. So in addressing illness, it's most important to address your whole life. And in Western medicine, by and large, that's not been the case. We deal with illness after the fact. Once you get cancer, you go to the doctor. Once you have the flu, you go to the doctor, and so on and so forth. But if we can avoid an illness before we get it, that's the best way. Or if we can, again, use both traditional medicine and the power of the mind and the healing techniques of the Far East combined to deal with an illness once we have it. So in the East, when we consider the body and we consider medicine, we look at a person's whole life. We don't just look at their symptoms, we look at their life. And their life is made up of how they feel, who they know, what they do, what we eat, how we exercise, how we feel about ourselves, how we treat ourselves, our self-image, how we feel about those around us. Our life is comprised of moments, the moments of living. Many of those moments are habits that we've learned from our parents, codes of ethics that we've learned or not learned from our society, religious beliefs. Our life is a very complex thing. But to think that health just has to do with your physical body is a terrible mistake, at least from the point of view of the Far East. Health is your entire life. So when you start to examine your life in that sense, you start to think about a very tricky word, energy, the energy of your life. Now, we all have a sense of what energy is. Energy is what makes a little kid run around all day long without stop. Energy is the thing that gets us up in the morning and sustains us throughout the day. When our energy is low, needless to say, we have to sit down, we're tired. That's energy. Where does energy come from? I mean, is it simply a matter of muscle mass? Is it simply a matter of proper nutrition and proper exercise? Having a positive state of mind? All those things, of course, are important. But in the Orient, they have learned that energy is internal. While, of course, there are external energies, and, of course, proper diet, proper exercise, and a positive state of mind are very important, particularly in dealing with something as serious as disease. There are other energies that we have that we can bring to our defense to stop disease from starting or to deal with the disease once it has begun. And this is something that I guess we would refer to in the West as mind over matter. Now, you may be skeptical, and I can understand that. We live in a very skeptical society. You may feel that, well, there's just Western medicine and that's all there is. You've obviously never been to the Far East. You've obviously never seen acupuncture practiced. You've never seen Tibetan medicine practiced. There are ancient methods of healing which can be used by yourself in conjunction with Western medicine that can produce very powerful results. And these methods are not mine, not yours. They're the property of the world. Unfortunately, they haven't really been brought to light in the West. They're very common in the Far East. And on a series of tape cassettes, I have placed a number of these methods, which I have learned from studying with Oriental teachers of medicine and of meditation, which you can use and utilize to sustain your health or to help you deal with illness. They really all center around one thing, and that's something I'd like you to think about. You know, when we're sick, we panic. We just want to get better. I appreciate that. When we're not sick, we don't worry about it. And then, of course, we make a mistake. We get sick. I don't think panic is the right thing to do when you're ill. And just, oh God, doctor, make me better. I just want to get better. Because we got sick for a reason. And I don't think that ignoring our health just because today we happen to luck out and we're not sick is the right thing either. I think what we have to do is think about the quality and the time of our life. This is the issue of living. And when we do that, we begin to examine the energy of our life. Now, there's a synergy. There's a causal relationship, a kind of cause and effect relationship between ourself and our state of mind and our state of life, between ourselves and the people we associate with, between ourselves and everything in our world. And the way you address that is realistically. A great deal of illness or problems with healing, when healing is possible with an illness, occur because we internalize so much. We internalize our anger, we internalize our frustration, we internalize our alienation. Recent studies have shown, particularly in working with cancer cases, that when individuals have been in a support group and they have talked to each other about their illness, not always in the most positive sense, but also vented their frustrations, but always leading towards a positive result of what can I do to get control of my disease in my life, to overcome my disease, to prevent a disease from recurring. They found that people in support groups have a much higher survival rate than people who just kind of tough it out on their own. That is to say, when we're able to openly talk about how we feel, and we don't keep everything inside, there's a healthy flow of energy, a healthy flow of interchange between ourselves and others. Intimacy, intimate contact is necessary, not only between a healer and a patient, but between ourselves and the people in our community. In other words, you need a support system if you're going to deal with disease. And your support system, or prevent disease, are the people you know, the relationships that you have with those around you. And it's very important not to shut yourself off and to internalize it. Sometimes we get sick, and for some reason we blame ourselves. Maybe it's not a conscious thing, but we just feel, I'm sick and somehow I am at fault. I've done something wrong. Not necessarily. No one wants to get sick. Sometimes we just pick up a disease that can be transmitted. Sometimes we've just been living in a way that we didn't realize would make us ill. But again, it comes back to a sense of what health is and energy. Energy is something that conquers disease. When your energy is very high, it affects your immune system. This is my personal belief. And really what we do in Eastern medicine is we try and keep our energy, our ki, as high as possible. When your ki is very strong, you don't become ill. When it's very low, you do become ill. That's the essence of Oriental medicine. Now again, in the West, people may laugh at this, but we have a lot to learn. I don't laugh at it because it's been my personal experience and the personal experience of many people that I have worked with, that the key factor in keeping our immune system very strong is energy, in keeping a disease from occurring or from fighting a disease. So what is energy? Where does it come from? It comes from inside us. It comes from our mind. It comes from our body. It comes from everything in our life. You can think of energy as you would think of cash flow. You know, if you have a company or even a checkbook, you can have a positive cash flow or a negative cash flow. Well, if you're not bringing in enough money, if you have a negative cash flow, sooner or later you go broke, you go bankrupt, because you're spending more than you're making. On the other hand, if you're making more than you're spending, you're saving. Well, then you're doing okay. Well, I'd like you to think of the energy of your life that way. Are you putting out more energy than you're taking in, than you're conserving? Because that's the short path to ill health. And particularly once you're ill, your energy is low, which is why you're ill. That's, again, my belief and the view of Oriental medicine. The most important thing is to increase your energy level. To increase your energy level to avoid disease to begin with, to increase your energy level to combat a disease that you now have. Again, I believe in all Western traditional medicine. I think you got to hit disease with everything you have. Disease is the enemy, and if you can stop the enemy from getting there, that's the first step. If they've gotten themselves in there, then we use everything we have. So you go to your doctor, you follow your doctor's recommendations, but in addition, you must, in my opinion, feel that you are in control of your disease and your health. This is the position of Eastern medicine. Too often we delegate. Somehow the doctor, and I don't think the doctor particularly wants this, or the nurse or the health practitioner is in charge of our health. Somehow we're just supposed to go to someone and magically they cure us, and we are giving away that responsibility for healing to someone else. Naturally, when someone can help us heal, we want their help. Of course, we want to get better. When someone can show us how to stay healthy to start with, that's the best. But one of the first steps that you have to take in avoiding illness and in correcting an illness that you already have, removing it, is assuming responsibility for your health. Realizing that you have to make healthy choices. You can't just feel that someone is going to cure you. You have to cure you. It begins with that understanding, which is something that we seem to just want to give away. Somehow, if we just have medical care for everyone, it's all supposed to work out. Well, it doesn't work out. It just means that maybe we'll have the right drugs, or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll have the right surgical procedure, or maybe we won't. So when we delegate, when we just say, "Doctor, cure me," we're making a mistake. We should start by taking our health very personally. This is the Oriental view. We are responsible for our health. At the same time, if we become ill, that doesn't mean that we failed in any way. It simply means that we made a mistake. We were exposed to a virus, we were exposed to a bacteria, perhaps there was a genetic weakness in our family for a particular disease that we were susceptible to. There's no fault in becoming ill, but there is a fault in not addressing our illness personally. So essentially what Oriental medicine is about is this very simple concept about keeping our energy very high, and once we are ill, using specific techniques for directing energy, our mind and body, the energy of our life, to areas of illness. And that with energy, with the power of the mind, the power of the body, with the power of ki, we can cure many illnesses that otherwise would not be cured. And if we combine that power with, of course, the latest scientific discovery, then that's the best, isn't it? So energy has a key role. Perhaps it is the most important thing in your day-to-day health. And it's very individual. You need a good exercise program, of course, and that will vary. One person will play tennis, and it just gives you energy. It makes you feel great. Another person, it's running. Someone else, it's jogging. Someone else, it's just taking a walk. But we can't be sedentary. We have to, particularly as we grow older, actually exercise more. But to put yourself in a form of exercise that you don't enjoy won't really make you healthy. Your body should enjoy the experience of exercising. Naturally, we get tired. Naturally, our energy is low. And sometimes we don't want to start exercising. But it's very, very important to develop an exercise program. But in the West, we see so much emphasis on just go out and exercise, do 20 minutes of exercise, it's going to make everything all right. What's most important from the Oriental point of view is not simply exercising, but finding a type of exercise that energizes you, that brings energy into your, and vitality into your being. The same is true of diet. Now, we all know that we should avoid fat. Fat seems to be the primary enemy, so science is telling us. But again, diet is a highly individual matter. And from the Oriental point of view, what's most important in diet is finding foods that energize you, thinking about your diet, not just grabbing something that's convenient and rushing out the door. It may be convenient today, but it won't be so convenient if your health deteriorates because you haven't watched your diet. Diet, again, is about energy. Certainly there's a certain chemistry to it, and we're trying to get all the important food groups. But what Western science seems to leave out is that we're alive, that we're made up of energy. And just breaking diet into food groups and exercise into cardiovascular and medicine into antibiotics and surgery leaves something out. It leaves out the power that we have as healers and the responsibility that we have to be healthy and to cure ourselves. So this is where Oriental medicine, I think, fills in a very important gap in our lives. And that is to understand and to start to look at our life in terms of energy flow, to realize that we are made up of energy, and that every action we participate in, every conversation, every phone call, every food we eat, the way we live, what we eat, drink, where we live, how we live, the thoughts we think, that everything we do either contributes to and heightens our internal energy, our internal power, which gives us a resistance to fight off disease, or an action that we engage in, a thought that we think, an emotion that we feel, weakens us and makes us more susceptible to disease. This is, again, the essence of Oriental medicine. What I would like you to do is to try the Oriental method in conjunction with a traditional Western form of healing. And I think you will be very, very surprised at how much power you have within your own mind and body to heal yourself. The methods on the cassette tapes that come with this, along with our work booklet, are very strong. But it's a very different approach. And again, the essence is that you are the healer, that you must take a responsibility for your own health. It's up to you to make a decision whether or not you want to be healthy, whether you want to live or to die. Someone can say you have a terminal illness, you have 3 years to live, you have 2 years to live, you have 5 years to live. I think you have something to do with that. I think you have a great deal to do with that. Someone can say that you have a genetic trait in your family and you're going to get a certain disease. I'm not convinced. I think you can have a fighting spirit that can push back disease, that can stop disease or prevent disease from happening in many, many cases. But that fighting spirit has to be fed with energy, with pure power, with ki, with internal energy, and with correct ways of living and correct ways of being. Health is a key issue as our environment becomes more and more toxic, and we have to use all the resources at our command to try and prevent illness or to deal with it once we have it. Nothing is impossible, that's my belief, if we set our mind in motion. Certain things structurally sometimes deteriorate to such a point that we can't do something. Yes, that's true. Sometimes a disease can go so far before we get to it that we can't cure it. But then perhaps we can take the life that we have and the time that we have and come to understandings and perhaps even a level of happiness while very ill that we would not have come to if we have right understanding. I mean, life is a terminal illness, isn't it? We all die. And I don't think that's something to be discouraged about or to be afraid of. I think it's something to be understood. It's something, it's another frontier that we can deal with. So I would like you to try our Oriental methods of healing. The results no one can guarantee, any more than anyone can guarantee a result in surgery or with a drug. We just know statistics. Statistically, we know that people in the Orient have found that these methods are very powerful. They work very well. But how well they work is up to you. You are in charge of your own health. and you have to make a determination whether life is worth living. And of course it is. Always be optimistic. Always be positive. So I'd like you to try these methods on these cassette tapes. Try our workbook approach if it appeals to you. And again, preventive medicine is what's most important. You don't want disease to settle into your body. And if your mind is set against disease, you'll remain healthy. But if you have a very serious disease, don't feel there's an immediate panacea. Health takes time to deteriorate. It also takes time to increase. So when you practice the guided imagery techniques, when you practice some of the yogic breathing exercises that we encourage you to use, and a variety of different approaches, you must be patient. And you must understand that what you're really doing is changing your attitude towards yourself, towards your life, and very often towards the people who you associate with. You have to break up the patterns in your life and make them very, very healthy, because if you're very ill, perhaps they were not. So I'd like to thank you very much for your time, and I would like you to take one thing away from this video today, and that is that you are in charge of your health. This is a new idea for people in the West. It really is. When you get sick, you don't just go to a doctor to get cured. You don't just say, "Cure me." You are in charge. You are responsible for your health. You are responsible for getting better. A doctor and a physician can assist you. But if you start to feel that your health is in your own hands, you'll do something about it. You'll prevent disease from starting. And you won't be passive when you get an illness. You'll fight it. You'll fight it with everything that you can get to. Every technique, every method, every form of medicine. That's the best. Your health is in your own hands. But I think you will find that these ancient methods of Oriental healing, of guided imagery, of meditation, of breathing, of diet, of exercise, are very, very powerful and can be added to enhance your life and your happiness. Thank you.